Alabama flips a Georgia commitment and adds a 2027 quarterback.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We are brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $5 down on a bet, and if it wins, you can gain $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. Let's talk about the latest commitments, starting with the University of Alabama. Trent Seaborn, quarterback class of 2027, so he is a junior right now, from Thompson High School in the state of Alabama, just outside of Birmingham. Definitely the best program in the state over the last decade. He commits to Tide. A lot of people early on thought he would end up with Auburn. I've seen Trent play. He's very accurate. He's very consistent. I don't think he's a guy that is necessarily going to wow you with his overall size or anything like that, but he is an on-time and, to be honest, very much like Ty Simpson is at Bama right now. On-time, consistent player that everybody knows about that's in the Deep South. He's been all kinds of events, and he plays for, again, the best program in the state of Alabama. Seaborn goes to the Tide, so they're up already on the 2027 cycle. And the other thing that's very interesting for Alabama, I didn't know this was going to happen. Corey Howard, defensive end from famed Valdosta High in Valdosta, Georgia, just north of the Florida line. He was committed to the Georgia Bulldogs. He flips to the Alabama Crimson Tide, 6'6", 250 pounds. This is a kid with a lot of upside. He was kind of a late bloomer. I think it was a smart move by Georgia in the original state of him committing to them, like them going after him, probably a little bit more than some other schools might have. Bama flips it. This is a good day for Bama over, the last couple of days. And to be honest with you, I don't think that Alabama's done. Them beating Georgia, especially on the road at Georgia, I think that has something to do with this. Do not be surprised if Alabama goes on a little bit of a recruiting run. Let's start off with a few of the kids that have committed recently, and obviously Howard's one of them. David Swarzel, the kid out of O'Day up in Seattle, he's committed to Stanford. He's one of the better defensive linemen in the area. That's a nice pickup. Stanford, they just beat Florida State. Andrew Luck has that program trending in the right direction. They've been more competitive than people thought they were going to be. Really good pickup for the Cardinal. We also have UCLA getting Travis Robertson out of West Bloomfield. He's an offensive tackle headed to the Bruins. And West Bloomfield's just outside of Detroit. UCLA continues to recruit nationally, even though their head coach hasn't been named for 2026. This is a good sign for them. Moving over to the class of 2027, already talked about Trent Seaborn again. He's headed to Alabama. He's from Thompson High School, just outside of Birmingham. We also have Malachi Ziegler. Speaking of quarterbacks, he's one of the best in the class of 2027. He's up in the northwest part of the state in Louisiana, and he's going to Dallas. He's going to SMU. He had offers from a ton of different programs. He's a top 200 kid by pretty much any measurement. Great young man, 6'2", 195 pounds, something like that. He can play from inside the pocket, or he can throw on the move. Ziegler's a good player. SMU, Rhett Lashley, doing a really good job at that program. He's going to make some noise there. Cale Snyder out of Perry High School in Gilbert, Arizona. He's a quarterback, sticking with the theme. He's about 6'2", 200 pounds. He's going to Boise State. G5 getting a really good player right there. And class of 2028, Ohio State has added Jameer Weish. He's out of Trotwood, Madison in the Dayton area. This is one of the best players, regardless of position, in the class of 2028. He's going to stay home, and he's going to pick the Buckeyes. That's a big one coming off the board because he's a 6'4", 270-pound defensive lineman. You can never have enough of those. Ohio State certainly produced its fair share here in recent times, so congrats to them. Also, speaking of underclassmen recruiting, visitors from around the country the last couple of weekends, just as a note, Keemon Spell has now been fong-bombed to Notre Dame. He's arguably the top running back in the class of 27. He's certainly up there. He's from the Pittsburgh area. He was committed to Penn State. There are several other players at Notre Dame's big game against USC. They've got a ton of players that they had on campus. Same thing with Georgia. They had a bunch. Alabama with Tennessee coming into town. Just pay attention and don't be surprised if and when any of these young men make pledges. Again, we've talked about a couple today, like Seaborn, etc. He was at the Bama game. I would imagine over the next 3 to 4 days, we're going to see a few more of these pop. These schools like to spread them out. Maybe it's another couple for Bama. Maybe a Notre Dame gets somebody to make a public announcement. Whoever it is, you'll probably see some big names from the class of 27 and maybe even 28. Again, Jameer Weiss just committed to Ohio State. He pretty much could have picked his school. Now, before we jump into the transfer portal, one other thing. With all the coaching changes, Billy Napier obviously was fired on Sunday. I still think Norvell will get fired at the end of this season, although Florida State made an announcement. They're going to make an assessment through the rest of this year, make a decision after. Okay, you're trying to find the money. I get it. There's still a lot of decisions to be made. LSU could be firing grounds. Don't laugh. Brian Kelly's got 2 losses this year. Fans are running out of patience with him. They still have A&M. They still have a game at Bama, and they have a game at Oklahoma. I'm predicting it now. If they lose 2 of those 3, and especially if they lose all 3 of them, LSU will come open. There's also several other jobs that could. NC State, maybe. It's a possibility. You freeze at Auburn. All of these impact not only recruits, but the roster, which means the transfer portal. And that's where we're going next. We're going to talk a little bit about it. There are a few guys that have gotten in the portal. And as well as that, there's also some discussion to kind of explain what's going on, why these coaching changes impact everything. That is going to be next right here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 to use across the FanDuel app. Over-unders, halftime scores, parlays, yardage totals. It could be just about anything. But again, if you win on that first $5 bet, you can use it however you see fit on FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app today, and get started. We are also brought to you by Monarch Money. Let's be honest. Most of us can't name all of our financial accounts, let alone how much each one's worth, 401k, savings, and other investments. It's pretty easy to kind of lose track of where you got your money stored and the best way to use it. That's why you need to start using Monarch. It's an all-in-one personal financial tool that allows you to get everything together for one financial portfolio in one clean, easy-to-use interface. You can use it on your phone, on your laptop, wherever you want. And with Monarch, you're going to be able to use everything in a concise place, make it organized, make it very savvy for you on how you're going to use it to improve your finances and to save money. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. If you have not already, please like and subscribe to the Portal Podcast. We're going to be talking about all kinds of players hitting the portal, which is something else that we're going to be doing here right now. And to be honest, with all the firings that are just kind of getting started, this could be a daily endeavor now. We're kind of to that point where just about every day there's going to be somebody either announcing, or at least we get a rumor about it, a coach firing. All of that impacts the portal very, very much. So here are a few of the guys that have just entered the portal in general. This is a list that 24/7 has, and it's a good barometer. Noah McKinley, he's a kid that just got in the portal. He's an interior offensive lineman. He's a pretty good player. Oklahoma State has been a fire sale. That's where he was. I'm guessing there's over 10 kids now overall that are in the portal from Oklahoma State. That's pretty rough. Michael Smith, tight end from South Carolina. He has entered the portal. The Gamecocks could probably use more blockers and more big guys. That's not good for them. Michael Short, linebacker from Virginia Tech. He's hit the portal. Mekhi Jackson, wide receiver from Indiana University. He has now entered his name into the transfer portal. Keon Burnett, he's another kid that's a tight end from Arizona. He's going to no longer play for the Wildcats, and he is also in the portal. And Donald Chaney, a running back, he's been at a lot of different places. He was at Charlotte. He is in the portal, just to name a few. As for what's going on here lately, the biggest trend again, and I'm not trying to pick on them, is Oklahoma State. And it's really not particularly close. Oklahoma State, for some reason, has had the least traction with keeping players out of all the schools that have a coaching change. There's close to 10 now. Just looking at my screen, I see 4 out of the first 5 were Oklahoma State. That's not a good sign. That is not a good sign. So I don't know if it's a bunch of players parting ways because they're just ready to get out of Stillwater, Oklahoma, or if it's something else. It's hard to say. But Florida State and all these other schools that are waiting to fire coaches, they could catch up. But right now, I think it's pretty safe to say that Oklahoma State is the one that's the shakiest ground. And it might be difficult for a head coach to come in and quickly turn around with them. As for the schools that I think are going to open, again, I mentioned LSU, I mentioned Florida State, NC State's a possibility. What about North Carolina and Bill Belichick? Do we really think he's going to be back in year 2? I mean, they have looked really bad. I don't know if that's going to work out. That one's a little iffy. What about, I hate saying it like this, but what about the situation at Kansas State? That could still go a couple of ways. Just want to put that on your mind. The Big 12 is so wacky that it's really difficult to figure out. But Chris Kleiman didn't maximize this year. There's no nice way to say this. They shouldn't be sitting around 500 with Avery Johnson as their quarterback. They've got some pretty good tight ends. They've got some pretty good defensive linemen, et cetera. They've got good players, and they're just not making it happen. Jace Brown, the receiver, et cetera. They've got players. That one could open. Just keep your eye on it. And then we got to talk about Penn State. They haven't had a ton of guys like hit the portal or anything like that officially. Who's going to be that guy that goes there? I'm picking Matt Campbell from Iowa State, sticking with the Big 12 theme. He's from Ohio. He's a guy that knows that area. I think he kind of fits the personality that Penn State will want. I'm going to call my shot on that one. I think Matt Campbell will end up at Penn State. Then again, he might just stay at Iowa State forever. Who knows? But there are a lot of jobs that are going to come open. And when somebody moves, that staff kind of goes on. But to take some of the players, all of that, it's going to be confusing. But the portal window officially, just for the record, opens on January 2nd, closes on January 16th. That's just the normal portal. But for anybody moving forward that is fired, when the new coach is hired, there's a 15-day window after that for that school. So if a player doesn't like the new coach that comes in or vice versa, there's a 15-day window for those young men to enter the portal. We'll see what happens. But right now, there's a bunch of jobs that could still come open. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day, each and every day, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We will see you again soon.